It's mad love. Mad love. Mad love. Yep. Yo. L. O. To the B. To the E. Show love. If you don't show.
Woo! Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week of Talk with Gina. I mean, I missed all of you. Every week I say it because I do. All of you show me so much love, show my guests so much love, and I so very much appreciate all of you. Once again, I have another fantastic guest. I did a video earlier because I was really calling on the grandparents, the parents, the young students to get on and just listen to my guest. Okay. It's not so much to say that she has the formula, but she created her own formula and she's going to explain to you what it is that she did. And you know what? Take those tips that she's offering because obviously it is a tried and true formula because it worked for her. We're going to be totally honest and we're going to give you as much nitty gritty as we can to help you in your process. You know, my guest, Daya Brown, I'm excited to even have her on. I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm really excited. Reached out to her. So gracious she is. And she accepted the invitation to be here with all of you and with me today. She is a poet, a scholar, student council president, her entire high school career. She's been a member of the Harvard Diversity Project. She started her own production company, the Elom company, and she's going to talk some more about that. She launched a nonprofit podcast called The Scholar Social. And it's to teach teenagers what is going on in the world, but in a creative way. I can't hold Daya back any longer. I must share this beautiful woman with all of you. Daya, where are you?
Hi, how are you?
Oh, so beautiful. How are you?
Great. How are you? Thank you for having me today. That introduction was amazing. I was over here dancing and stuff.
Thank you. So, we have a lot to cover. And there's been a lot of anticipation. Like, we've seen on the news that somebody will, have all of these scholarships and, be awarded or offered X amount of scholarship letters, offered letters of acceptance. See how I'm so excited. Offered letters of acceptance and also be awarded some scholarships collective with all of the schools, right?
Yes.
So what we want to do is talk about your journey, Daya. I want you to take me to let's go back to elementary school and what that was like for you, the support that you had at home, and you doing your work. So share with us.
Okay, so my story is kind of interesting, right?
Mhm.
I'm a pastor's kid, and so I spent a lot of my nights at the church for late night meetings. A lot of people don't know how much it takes to be a pastor's kid. So during those times, I kind of learned independency. And when independency came, it was just kind of like a hey, Dad, you got to grow up a little bit. My parents were amazing throughout the whole process. My mom most definitely had those late night kitchen table moments that every child goes through, trying to finish math homework.
Right.
Then my father played an active role in learning and making sure that I read, right? So I'm a poet, but at an earlier age, he was making me read a lot of poets, such as Nikki Giovanni. And I was like, I don't understand this. I'm not a fan.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize what they were instilling in me until much, much later, like the importance of reading, the importance of education, the importance of network. But as a pastor's kid and growing up in certain environments and having access to those things, it kind of taught me how to be a scholar, how to be an independent Black woman in today's generation. Of that, understanding what it means to be a businesswoman, because I think a lot of people say like, how is she a teenager? How does she own so many companies? But at the end of the day, I think my parents really placed me into a atmosphere where I had questions and I received answers. So my mom was on the creative team. And so like at late nights, I would see her doing like the graphics and everything. And I loved it. I love seeing the
Wow.
different themes that they curated. I remember once Easter Sunday, they did like a how to get away with murder. And I instantly fell in love with how they turned something that was, like an Easter Sunday into something creative, into something that's interesting to understand. So understanding those moments and seeing my father preach really taught me the importance of rhetoric and learning how to change people just by using one word. And then grandmother played an active role as well, which we will get into much later. But I think these small moments in my childhood really engraved what I do. um,
Right.
so yeah, that's kind of the nitty gritty of that. And then middle school, my parents got in divorce. And when my parents got in divorce, that was the shifting of everything. It was no more, of like, hey, Daya, you're not really a child anymore. I had to be a scholar. I had to be a bigger sister for my little brother. I had to be the kind of the, what's the word? The middle ground.
Okay.
Family. And so like you're learning all of those things while still trying to figure out what high school are you going to go to, right? So like life is still happening. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think my parents' divorce really played an active role in what I do now today.
Isn't that something? Sometimes folks will have this ideology like everything is so perfect. Like you didn't have any worries, no care in the world, but we all deal with things.
Right.
And you were able to do what it is that you have to do, but still struggle internally. So you definitely had to have a strong dynamic, a
Right.
strong family structure to help you get through those struggles, because that's not easy.
Yeah.
I want daddy still home. I want my dad still at home. And, there's all of that is still going on, but you were still able to keep going. And that's admirable.
Thank
No, that really is, because it's tough. And
Yeah.
we have to find that outlet. There has to be an outlet to where you don't feel so super overwhelmed and lose yourself.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, that's
How-
I'm sorry, what were you saying, dear?
That's how it was. That's how it was.
So now we're moving into high school. So we finished with junior high school, and we're in high school right now. And so now start us on that journey, because did you have an idea that you wanted to apply to a plethora of schools?
The beginning of high school is very interesting because that's when COVID hit for me. So when I stepped into high school, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. Um,
Mhm.
I'm a debater at heart. I've been debating since sixth grade, but the moment I hit ninth grade, I really started to learn that I really love creativity. So at that moment, I thought I was going to go to an Ivy League, right? I'm like, okay, Dare, you're going to Harvard, Dare, you're going to Yale, you're going somewhere.
Right.
So that's what I thought when I was coming into my freshman year. However, COVID
Mhm.
hit, and then my parents' divorce was so raw at the same time. And
Mm.
so for me, pain literally became my inspiration in terms of opening the door to poetry. Because at one point I hated poetry, but when
Mhm.
I listened to Still I Rise, that quickly shifted, and that was in ninth grade and eighth grade part of my life.
Okay.
And so I listened to that, and literally right before COVID, 2-3 weeks before COVID, I stood on the stage at Westlake High School, the school that I attend, and I gave a poem. I did a whole spoken word piece, and
Mm-hmm.
right then and there, and I walked off the stage. I'm like, whoa, Daya, you have the ability to change people's lives by telling your
Mm.
story through a creative way. So for me, going through my freshman year in high school, I didn't understand or really didn't articulate, hey, Dare, you're going to college. I just knew I had to make sure that my GPA was good, right?
Right.
2 weeks after that,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I received a call of someone from Harvard Diversity Project. They were like, hey, Daya, listen, I think it'd be perfect. I went through that process. Again, COVID is here. So I'm
Right.
all of this over the phone, over computers, on Zoom all day, going through this process. And then
Right.
I'm still like, hey, Dare, you're going to be a lawyer. Didn't
Right. Right. Right.
so I'm like, Dare, you're going to go into entertainment law, yada, yada, yada. But then the moment I went into Harvard, I learned like amazing things about other Black kids. And I realized I wasn't the only one who loved poetry. And so
Mm-hmm.
Harvard gave me the ability to say, you can create something out of your passion. And that's what
Mm.
kind of shifted for me. And that was my freshman year of high school. So I'm learning this and I'm
Mm-hmm.
researching colleges that specialize in journalism, because during this time I became a journalist with Fox ACL, and that was during the time of Black Lives Matter, right? So
Mm-hmm.
telling my story, I'm sharing poetry, yada yada yada, and at the end of the day, I'm thinking you're still going to Ivy, but when I was kind of in the middle of the program at Harvard, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
let's sit down and do research. I have all the time in the world. Um,
Right.
school is can be done from 8 to 3. So
Right.
after 3 o'clock, I will literally just sit down and research. I'm like, what schools specialize in film? What schools have poetry classes? What schools provide an atmosphere that you can strive in? And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, there you're going to be in California, New York,
Right.
because of what I'm studying. And so
Mm-hmm.
I already had like a list at that time of 50 colleges. And so
Okay.
the thing about the Harvard program is that they make sure that you have connections in terms of people from HBCUs, Ivy Leagues, no matter where you want to go. I'm talking to people
Mm-hmm.
from an array of backgrounds. And
Mm-hmm.
so as I'm learning these different things, and learning about the a college application process, um, I had to understand, like, I'm not paying for it. I'm coming from a divorced household. I have a
Mm-hmm.
partner right behind me, and I knew that's when things shifted for me. Like, Dare, you cannot pay for college. I keep hearing about these student loans. I'm
Right.
like, Jesus God, no, I can't do it. So as
Right.
like, no, this isn't for me. But
Mm-hmm.
um as I was going through that process, that's when I learned about the Gates Scholarship, the Coca-Cola Scholarship, and that's when I started doing my research. So for me, it was always keeping that GPA secured, but making sure that everything I did after that followed what I wanted to do in
Right.
school, because it wouldn't make sense if I was studying film, poetry, journalism, and I'm sitting here doing science, right? So everything became strategic for me in terms of what clubs I applied to, what were my leadership roles, what companies was I starting. Everything became like a rippling effect. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so it all came down to being able to tell your story at the end. Um,
Mm-hmm.
right when you're sitting down trying to build your college application, what story do you want to tell to these college admission
Mm-hmm.
officers? Make it easy, quick for them, but at the same
Right.
time, you want them to understand that you know who you are, and you know what you want to do. So hopefully that answered that.
No, it does, and that's key what you said, because you actually started living what was in your mind that you wanted to do.
Right.
So when you applied to the colleges, it was, look at me. I am doing what I'm saying I'm going to do. Because
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what was it that you feel struck, made you stand out with
Mhm.
the schools? And that's really it.
Yeah.
You said, I want to do whatever it might be that you wanted to do, and you started to live it. So
Right.
now that's where your company, your production company, was born, right? Elom. And I know that's your middle name. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
So it's Elom and Co-Productions.
Mhm.
It means God loves me. And so Elom and Co-Productions, I had this love for poetry. I had this love for film. And
Mhm.
I always told my mentor, Melissa Ingram, I was like, hey, I always wanted to start a production company. She was like, why won't you do it now? You have all the access, you have all of the opportunities. So why won't you create other spaces for students in your area? And so literally after that call, I literally sat down and built a whole business plan. And that was right after the Scholar Social, the nonprofit organization, and the podcast. And
Mhm.
so I sat down, I was like, hey, how can I make this different? So it first started off with just one person. Now we're at a team of 15 people, ranging from
Wow.
freshmen in high school to seniors in college and so forth. And we're constantly still bringing people on, but it was intentional to bring a space for students here in Atlanta where it is literally a melting pot of creative students, um,
Mhm.
wondering how can they get their foot into the door. And so that's why I created Elom and Co-Productions. We specialize in poetic films, but not only do we do poetry and directing, but
Right.
we make sure that we have networking events. So we've had like 3 networking events so far here in Atlanta, partnering with local companies such as Brooklyn Tea, a Black
Mhm.
owned, Kit Labs,
Yes, I'm familiar with them. Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
so partnering with everything's consistent. Everything has to be intentional, because we want to bring these spaces to these students who are in college, young adults, and making sure that they have the opportunity to meet people who are doing what they're dreaming. So that's why I created
Mhm.
Common Cup Productions. So yeah.
I love it. You know, that word that you used, intentional.
Mhm.
You must be intentional and you must be true to it. Because that's what I keep hearing.
Mhm.
Even though you know you're explaining what you did, you're explaining why you did it, but I still keep hearing intentional. You were living it, you were eating it, you were breathing it. You
Right,
know, everything about what you did made you stand out. And then you weren't just talking the talk, you were actually walking the talk.
right,
And
right.
that's huge. And then you said that you have a younger brother. So, he's looking at you like, okay, if you say you're going to do something, you have to be what? Intentional.
Intentional.
Intentional in what you're doing. I like that. And that's why, like, again, I told folks, listen, tune in because it's not a, Monday or Tuesday, I decide that I want to do something and then it manifests on Thursday.
Right.
No, there's work in it, there's a journey piece to it. And that's what was so important. So now you've created the production company, it's COVID, you are applying to different schools. Um, and how did you offset the cost? Now, I know things have changed. In my day, you had the 6 schools,
Right.
and so how were you able to offset the cost of applying to all of those colleges?
Okay, so I've had an amazing team to help me go through this process. So just want to give them a quick shout out.
Mhm.
So I had a team of our college career coach, at Westlake High School. I was already in his office in the middle of COVID, right?
Mhm.
Not in but it was in the middle of COVID. We were meeting virtually. He just came aboard. It's my sophomore year. I'm like, hey, listen, this is where I want to be. How do we get there? And
Mhm.
so meeting with him made us have a strategy, right?
Mm.
Then I met with my high school counselor, right? The traditional route. Can my classes that I'm currently taking get me
Mhm.
into these schools? Can this
Right.
honors class get me into Yale, Harvard, Duke? Can, just thinking about those things, right? And then I had an amazing, amazing college coach, Mr. Lennon. He actually has known me since birth. That's one thing about Atlanta. Everyone is well connected. Um, so he remembers me from birth, and he literally sat down with me to make sure that I had no grammatical errors in my college essay, make sure that I was able to tell the story that I wanted to tell. He
Mhm.
sat down with me to prep for interviews for the Gates, for Harvard, for the Princeton, all of that. And then my mom, she was very intentional in making sure that we stayed organized because my parents
Mhm.
already knew that I don't like people looking like, I'm like, hey, give me the space. I'll let
Right.
you know where I am. So she provided with the app, Monday.com, which every student should write down right now. And Monday.com,
Monday.com. Mhm.
yes, Monday.com is great for business. It's great for organization. And literally we created a whole template and listed out the important colleges, like the top 5, top 10. And then we listed the colleges that
Mm-hmm.
made sense for what I am studying. And then we had the
Mm-hmm.
backup colleges. And then we had the schools that are here in Georgia. And so we literally had a process where I would say, hey, I already applied here. I'm in the process of applying here. We have the letter of recommendation ready for this. So she provided that organization, and it helped everyone stay focused, my parents and I, and making sure that we were on the right path. My father, he literally took me to like my top 10 schools across the country, from top to bottom. And sometimes like, hey, you want to go here this weekend? I'm like, yes, let's do it. And he's been doing that. We've actually been doing it all of my life, but it became intentional at the end of sophomore year and up. And then I would have to say, like, I had to create a balance.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, in starting August, that's when Georgia starts schools. And
Mm-hmm.
August, I was like, hey, October 31st, I'm done applying to I'm not scholarships, colleges. I'm
Mm-hmm.
don't want to apply anymore after this. And so that's what I did. I made sure that I prioritized my top 10 schools. But then
Mm-hmm.
it's easier now, right? So you have the Common Black app. So you fill out one application, you apply to 60 HBCUs here. Um,
Mm.
and then Common App, you're applying to 15 schools, 15 to 20 schools too. So
Mm-hmm.
everything is just becoming easier. And then on top of that, our school took us to college fairs where you were receiving on-site admissions and scholarships. And so for the scholarships, I made sure that I did those every Saturday morning or Sunday morning, because that Sundays are like where I get majority of the work done. I'm like, oh,
Right, right.
just check it off the box. But I mean, like during the day, during the weekdays, I would spend like at least 2 to 3 hours per day on college applications because I was on a tight schedule. I was still the class president. I still had to go
Mm-hmm.
to the football game. I still wanted to enjoy senior year.
Yeah.
So I had to be very strategic in how
Mm-hmm.
I did it.
Yeah, and creating that balance, which is really important so that you don't get burned out because the process started off as fun and intentional, but you still have to keep that fun in it. Otherwise, then it becomes a task and you
Exactly.
don't want to do it. What's the name? I just want to put up the name of that would
The
you say?
platform,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Monday.com. So like the day Monday.com.
Okay, so I'm putting this on the screen, everyone. And you'll see it's www.monday.com. And I encourage you all, and then I'll put it on the screen here, monday.com. So I encourage you to jot it down and check it out, you know. Wow. I mean, I'm just like, we haven't even gotten to the acceptance letters yet. It's like, how do you breathe? But like you said, you have to create that balance. And I know I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And sometimes when people, hear of my schedule or watch me and what I do, well, where do you find the time? How do you do it? But you have to make it fun in
Yeah,
some way, somehow it has to be fun. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. It feels like an arduous task and I don't want to do it anymore. Okay, so so you toured the schools, you had your top tens that you wanted to go to. So now the letters have started coming in. So what month did the letters start coming in?
so the first time I applied, the first college applications I got out the way were the Common Black app, right? Since that was one application, you just push it out. So I know I received my first college acceptances from University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, I believe Tuskegee, a lot of those, Tennessee State. My father's, it was always a joke that he wanted me to end up at Jarvis Christian College. It's a very small HBCU in
Uh-huh.
Texas. So that has been the ongoing joke in my family that I would be going to Jarvis. I'm like, no. But that was one of the schools, as well as
Uh-huh.
mom schools, Georgia Southern. So those
Mm-hmm.
were when they started rippling in, like literally after I applied 2-3 weeks afterwards. But then emails started coming for like the bigger schools, right? The schools that I intentionally had in my mind, like I want to go there. They started asking for interviews. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. We're doing it. So that is all started happening in like September, October, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Then for I when I applied for like the top schools, those ended in November 1st. So those started coming like in November because they come out December, January.
Okay. Someone is asking, were you a STEM student from elementary school?
Actually, I was never in tag. I never passed tag, never passed a STEM. I was never really a math girl. And that's funny because my whole family are math geeks. And I'm like, guys, I can only give y'all addition, multiplication, subtraction. That's it.
And that's it. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did not I was not a STEM person. I was always in the tag classes, but I did not have the official title of being in tag.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? That's some real realness that you just shared, Daya. Because one would think, oh wow, you're great in everything. Like no, only you could do it, or folks like you, whatever like you is,
Right.
in every single subject. And that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
You applied yourself. You are a bright woman, without a doubt. But you also applied yourself.
Yes.
That's the key. I
Yes.
was saying,
Thing.
mhm,
That was one thing my parents made sure. Like they always knew I struggled in math. So making sure that I had tutorials, right? Make sure I had tutoring. Sometimes you have to take the risk and stay after school. I still stay after school for AP stats, and I'm a senior in high school. Um, so yeah, it's just all about parents understanding, hey, my child needs help here. How can we make sure that they have the foundation to get through, right? Even the same with SAT prep.
mhm. But
So
like you said, you didn't rely on your SAT. You didn't rely just on your GPA. There was a lot more that had to come into this. I mean, I'm inspired. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I really am inspired. So now we spoke a little bit about the process of you applying with ED, early decision, that you graciously told me what that is, and then EA, early action.
mhm.
So if you could just expound on that, so folks will know, because it's not just okay, just apply to schools.
Right.
There's more to it, right? So kind of like walk us through that process.
Okay, so for each school is very different. And that's how it's like kind of a funny story for me because I was debating, Day, are you going to apply early decision? Are you going to apply
Hmm.
early action? Are you going to apply regular decision? For my number one school, which I will be attending, Duke University, they only gave us the option of early decision and regular decision. So I'm going to go down the list. So there's rolling admissions. Rolling admissions, what a lot of HBCUs have, as well as Auburn, Clemson, all of those SEC schools, those are rolling admission schools. So they continuously come out. As soon as you apply, they would give it to
Hmm.
you in like a month or a couple of weeks. So rolling admissions are ongoing. It's not a set date of when you will receive your acceptance letter. Um, regular decision is a set date for all students. It's not any commitment. Regular decision has no commitment. And it comes out on a set date as well, and there's also a deadline for that. For early decision, which I did, is making a commitment saying if I do get into this school, I will withdraw all of my other applications, and that's what I had to do. So
Mm.
when I applied early decision, got into Duke University December 17th, I simply just withdrew all of my other applications. Harvard, Yale, all of those. Withdrew my application because you don't want to, let's say I get into Harvard, that's a 2% acceptance rate type school, right?
Mhm.
That's risking it for another student. So that's that. And then early action does not have a commitment level. However, you will find out earlier than those who apply regular decision. So that's that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. So you really have to be certain
you really
that
have to
you
be certain.
want to attend the school, because once you withdraw, you can't go back.
You cannot go back. You cannot go back at all.
So it would be something where you would have to reapply, maybe after doing a year in the school that you would do, and maybe reapply.
So it'll be more of a transfer. Yes. So a transfer. So transferring schools, which a lot of students do. I have a few friends who are transferring. Um,
Right.
so yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's a very nitty-gritty process, I must say.
Isn't that something? So when you were accepted to Duke,
Yeah.
how many schools did you just pull the plug on? At that point, you were accepted to all 54,
At
right?
that
Or
point, I was accepted to all 54. So the schools that I had to withdraw from were like the Ivy League schools that I were waiting on, like the Stanfords, the Columbia.
Mhm.
Because Stanford and Columbia were top on the list. So Harvard, the Northwestern, those are the ones I remember on the top of my head.
Right.
Those are schools that I had to withdraw from immediately. And sometimes some schools have different policies saying, hey, if you don't withdraw, it risks, your own acceptance into your
Exactly.
school.
So now, if you could describe in a few words the feeling of receiving acceptance after acceptance after acceptance, if you could put it in one word or a couple of words, just so that we could understand what that feeling is like, because I'm not going to assume that folks on here have not, or their children haven't been accepted to many schools. I know I was accepted to the 5 out of the 6 that I applied to, and I was over the moon, like, whoa. But I cannot imagine. So how was that?
How do I
How would you describe that feeling?
I think it was more of a feeling like, and I say it all the time, like it was really the sensation of becoming your ancestors' wildest dreams at the end of the
Wow.
day. It was literally that sensation. Like I had so much happiness that day. I still remember it. It was kind of like a breath of fresh air, but to say like I did this and I'm going
Hmm.
to do so. It gave you another push of motivation. Like I'm getting chills talking about it now, just remembering that
Wow.
day. But it literally just felt like, listen, you're doing everything that your ancestors fought for, that you're going to continue to do. And I'm all about legacy. I'm all about legacy.
Hmm.
So literally becoming the embodiment of that just meant everything to me.
That's huge, Daya. That's huge. That's huge. I felt that. No, I really felt that. I really did. So I know that. Okay, we all know that you applied to 70, you were accepted to 54, you were offered $1.3 million in scholarships, but you have a best friend.
Yes.
And your best friend also did the thing.
Yes.
It's nothing like being on the same page of your best friend. And look at how you just lit up. And I know you ladies have a really good friendship.
Mhm.
So what was that like, going through the process? Because she literally was going through it as well, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny. So the friend that you're referring to, she is actually the director of my company, Elom Co-Production. So she's like right underneath me, making sure that every day happens for the company. So that's that. We're kind of weird in terms of how we work. Like we will just sit on the phone with each other, but we
Mm-hmm.
won't like say it, right? We won't
Mm-hmm.
we won't say like what we're specifically doing because we kind of get overwhelmed. But like we would
Mm-hmm.
go through our checklist. But
Right.
I think those late night phone calls, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
sitting there doing the college applications. She received $1.5 million in scholarship money, and she's debating between Vanderbilt and Howard, and she will also be studying film as well. But then we have four other friends who, in total, we all have $4 to $5 million in scholarship money here in Atlanta. All of them are going to amazing schools. Haley Walker, Georgia Tech, Hope Scholar, Josie, University of Alabama for a ride, Khalees Roundtree. She is debated between Emory, University of Miami, and Howard, and then who we were
Wow.
just referring to, Jalen Ellison. So it's amazing being surrounded by so many women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pushing the efforts, and we're all come from different backgrounds. We all are studying totally different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except for me and Jalen, like we're kind of
Right. Right. So, uh-huh.
but it's just a beautiful sight to see. And I kind of like laugh sometimes. I'm like, shoot, one day I might have to create a show or like a revamp of Girlfriends or Harlem because based on our lives. And that's just what it feels like is everyone's so diverse in their personalities and what they want to do. So yeah.
Wow. And so you're known as the Fabulous Five. I love it.
Five.
And all of you attend Westlake?
All of us attend Westlake except for Haley. She attends North Springs, which is a charter school.
Okay. So did you ladies get together and make a pact and say, listen, this is what we're going to do?
Yeah.
Or it just so happened that, with the exception of your best friend, because I know that both of you speak a lot, but with the others, was it something that they were on their journey of applying, and then it was one of those things where you ended up getting together and saying, whoa, I'm doing the same thing. Really?
Yeah,
I'm doing the same thing. Was it sort of like that, or?
it was literally like that. We are kind of like we're all independent. We're all
Uh-huh.
independent, but like sometimes we just come to the group chat like, oh guys, look, this is the internship I got, right? Or here's the business opportunity that I have. That's kind of how we work. So we all like do our work by ourselves, and then we just bring
Mhm.
it to the table once it's fully set. So
Wow, Diana says this is a movie for real. Something to think about, and
look,
film it
give me at
yourself.
least 20 years for that revamp of Girlfriends.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. So, what kind of advice would you offer the students? I know you were putting together something, right? What is it that you put together to help students
Yeah.
apply for colleges and so forth? I know you're working on something.
So I'm currently in the process with one of the mayors here in Georgia, College Park, Georgia. She's also a Duke alum, Black woman, amazing. Um,
Hmm.
and so we're trying to work together to have a virtual workshop as well as an in-person workshop for students, families of all ages, because it's never too early. I always tell people it's never too early. I wish I would have started my SAT prep in 8th grade. I would have been better than my SAT scores, but um, all over the country, all over Georgia, we will have a workshop, as
Hmm.
well as we're trying to figure out how I can sell the webinar, but trying to make sure that students understand not only the college application process, but understanding how can you start a career now and how can you
Hmm.
set yourself up in order to have a career in whatever fields. Because a lot of students come to me every day like, hey, Daya, what did you do during your high school experience? Hey, Daya, how can I do what you did? How can I get an internship? So
Right.
this opportunity will teach students that. How do you build a resume? How do you network? How do you send a pitch email to say, hey, I would love to really meet you. My name is yada yada yada, and this is who I am. So that's what we're working on in the process. It will most definitely happen this summer.
Hmm.
So really looking forward to that. Still in the planning phases. I'm still trying to enjoy the last few weeks of my senior year. So I'm getting head. I'm going to start working on that in the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's always important to pour right back into your community. Because if it wasn't for my village, I wouldn't be where I am today.
And that's key.
Yeah.
That's key. Because if you have to do it by yourself, not to say it can't be done, but again, that's a
It's hard.
lot.
It's hard. It's hard.
That's
Because
a
with a village
lot.
is hard. So I can't imagine what it's like doing it alone.
Right. And then having your parents there, they might not be together.
Yeah.
However, they're still there,
Ex-
offering that support. And then your grandmother is there. And I've read, oh my goodness. Listen, I will say, please visit the Daya Brown is her IG. The Daya Brown, right? Or
Yeah.
it really should be the, right? Because when I read it, I said it is the Daya Brown. That's how I read it. The Daya Brown. And your pictures are absolutely beautiful.
Thank
And your dresses, your grandmother made those dresses, those
Yes.
gowns.
My
Oh,
grandmother has been making my mom's high school dresses since forever. And I've always been the crazy, energetic, creative type girl. So I get my creativity from my grandmother, my mother, my father. But I remember like asking her one day, I'm like, hey, can we make my future wedding gown? And I'm like 5 years old. She literally created a whole ball gown for me. I wish I had a picture of that. And so when high school hit, I'm like, Nana, you have a gift. Let's go ahead and get started on this. So I told her you can start making my gowns for my birthdays, for prom, for homecoming. And that's what she did. And now she has clientele from all over
hmm.
the country now. And I'm so proud of her. But yeah, my Nana makes all of my dresses.
I'm proud of her too. I'm looking at these dresses, and I mean, initially, I didn't know that until I did my research, and I saw your grandmother makes your gowns, your dresses, and I said, "Whoa!" Because
Yeah.
they're stunning. And then to know that, oh my goodness, that
Yeah.
is talent.
It is talent. I was telling her, I'm like,
Woo.
girl, let's lock in a little bit and let's build something out of this. And that's what she's working on. I'm really proud of her.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like it's never too late to do what you were called to do.
That's right.
And that's what she's following in.
Oh my goodness. Please, once she, gets it all together, please put it on your site. You know, I follow you, and I
Will
would love to be able to just make the connection from you, to your grandmother to just, oh my goodness,
yes,
to
will
see what she's doing, because those gowns, I'm telling you, please add the Daya Brown. I like to say the Daya Brown, because there's no other, right?
I hope not. Look, I hope not.
Oh my goodness. So what's next for you, Daya? I know you've committed to Duke. Oh, before we get into that,
Yeah.
you are a finalist for the Gates Millennium.
I was a finalist for the Gates Millennium. Sadly,
Okay.
we did not get the official but that's okay. That's okay
Okay.
because college is still paid for. And,
Okay.
and that's what I also wanted to touch on. Like sometimes you would hear no during that process. I've gotten no's so many times. From USC, I was waitlisted. The day before I got into Duke, I got deferred from Georgetown. And that gave me anxiety. I'm like, oh my God, if Georgetown deferred me, like, what would you do? Right. So I just want students and parents to understand, like, no, it's okay. It's plenty of scholarship offers that I've been told no from the same corporations that I already received scholarships from. But I feel like if we always think that we're told yes, right, it won't humble us. And so this has been a whole humbling experience. And it's also a experience that teaches you patience, right? I was told no on the Coca-Cola scholarship, right? But at the end of the day, everything will work because I still have a full ride to do.
Wow.
So just manifesting what you want to do, right? And just making sure that it can happen and just being okay with hearing no, because I actually was at a scholarship event with Zeta, the Zeta sorority, and she literally said every time she hears no, she turns it into a yes. And that's what I've done during this whole process. And that I have to like tell myself, like when I heard the no from Gates, I'm like, okay, next. Like
Right. Exactly. It take a little time to process,
yes, take a little time to
but
process, but
don't
at the
stay
end
in
of the
it.
day, I feel like it'd be long and like if we just ponder in all of that, it messes up the journey.
Oh yes. Oh
And
yes.
it elongates it, and
Oh
it
yes.
goes into it.
Shifts your focus,
Yes.
all of that stuff. Really, it's not good. So you received a full ride from Duke
For
now.
1 year. For 1
Oh,
year.
for 1 year. So the scholarship from, if you received the Millennium Scholarship, then that would have paid for the other 3 years,
It would
correct?
pay for the full 4 years, including room and board. It would give you, and this is something I tell all students to apply to, no matter how much money your parents make, you never know. Apply to every big scholarship there is. So they give you a stipend for electronics as well. And so it's literally 750 students out of
Okay.
50,000 who get that scholarship. So even to be considered as a finalist, that's still an honor to
That's
me.
big.
So I always respect that. I have a lot of friends who received the Gates Scholarship, and they're going to do amazing with it. So I'm really looking forward to see where they will end up as well.
I love it. I love it. You'll be there, and I'll see you in your film, and maybe these big movie lots, Lionsgate or whomever, MGM will be the distributor, and or maybe you start off like what is her name? Issa
Ray. That's literally like how I started my company. I hope that one day Elom & Co will be considered as something as special as Issa Rae's company or Tyler Perry Studios or own network. So list goes on. The dreams are big, but at the end of the day, the dreams can become reality. And that's
true.
what I keep trying to remind myself.
It's true. Because I have a friend that used to watch her show. And I was like, well, who is this? Now, this is years ago when she was on YouTube. Awkward Black Girl.
See?
And I said, what is this? What is this? And then next thing you know, she's off of YouTube, and now
a whole director, a whole actor, doing everything she put her mind to. Headline of Essence. Like, I'm like, okay.
Exactly.
I always
Exactly.
love her work. Love her work.
Wow. Everyone's on, including my dentist. Like he'll sneak on sometimes. I'm like, doctor. But he's on and he's saying blessings to you. And we have folks on from Nalda from Houston. Awesome continued success. We have Miss Ann Franklin. She said, late joining, but interesting and great information for all students and blessings to you. So everyone is sending a whole lot of blessings to you. They're so happy to have you on to see your dazzling smile, to feel your energy, to know that you're being so super honest and transparent because, that's the only way to really be in order to really be able to help. And I tell folks, the show is wellness, learn, uplift, and inspire, but the journey is the wellness.
Exactly.
And so once folks take it in, then they're able to do differently, and internalize it differently. Daya, thank you.
I think
Oh my goodness.
great experience. Like, I love it.
I mean, and Daya, I have to also note, Daya has been making the rounds. Okay. So for Daya to say, yes, I would like to be on your podcast. When I tell you, I was really like, thank you so very much. Because, and I had written it down, Good Morning America. And I know you on Atlanta 11 in Atlanta, right?
Yes.
And then she's been interviewed by the Washington Post. I mean, it's just publications up the wazoo, on television. So I thank you. I thank you for enlightening the Talk with Gina audience. I look forward. I'll continue following you and watching your journey as you morph. I saw those pictures. Your smile is just incredible. Just standing on Duke's campus, and just there has to be nothing like attending the school that you really want to attend.
Exactly.
It was staying true.
I have to keep going up there. I'm like, dang, Daya, you're really going to Duke. Like, it still hasn't hit me, but yes, it's an amazing feeling.
So when do you leave?
I leave, I believe, August 17th. So I'm really taking this summer to just rest. Really sit in Elom and Co before we head off to North Carolina. Doing a quick shift in states. Just spending time with family, traveling. I feel like I've been just constantly moving for the last 4 to 5 years. So I just want to sit down for a second.
Just a little bit, right?
A little bit. Not for long, but just for
just a little bit. Just a little bit. Well, we wish you all of the best. Let me just quickly go back over to the comments. Everyone is just saying that they wish you well, and his faith and how it helped you along your journey. Someone's asking, can you speak on your faith? Yeah. Nikki is asking, can you speak on your faith and how it helped you along your journey?
So that's actually an interesting conversation too. I've actually had a conversation about this on the Scholar Social. So in the beginning, I mentioned how I'm a preacher's daughter. Always grown up in church. I've always been there from 5 a.m. to 5 o'clock on Sundays. But one thing for me, I remember getting baptized by my father right before my parents got divorced. And I understood what God was, but I didn't understand the placement in my life, right? I didn't placement in my life. And when my parents got divorced, that was a rock bottom for me. I'm like, God, you failed me. God, how could you do this to me? How would this make me look? I thought of it as such a selfish, but at the same time, too son to speak attitude. And so at one point, I stopped going to church as a pastor's kid. I'm not doing this. And so I remember just sitting one Sunday morning and something in my spirit is like, turn on the gospel song. And it was I Need You by Smokey Norfield. I hope I pronounced his last name.
Smokey Norfield.
Yes. I Need You. And I listened to that song one Sunday morning and I just remember bawling my eyes out. It was because that was the first time in 2 years I understood what God was, who God is, and his placement for the first time in my life. Not just because people push it on me because I'm a pastor's kid and you're supposed to be a Christian, you're supposed to do this and do that. But that was the first time where I understood, like, hey, listen, he has me. He's holding my hand during this process. But during this whole thing, I think he's really placed me in every aspect and in this journey, to make sure that I got to where I wanted to be, even though
Mhm.
the vision wasn't as clear.
Right.
It made sense to him, so therefore it should make sense to me, and I should just go with
Right.
the flow.
That's what they call let go and let God.
Let go and let God. I always say
Okay.
that all the
Yeah,
time. Let go
that's
and
right.
let God. God bless.
That's true. And then the time that you start to get a little worried,
Yeah.
he'll
Yeah.
remind you, if you said let go and let God, I got you.
And
It's
that's
okay.
that.
That's
I was
right.
that this morning. Let
Mm.
go and let God.
Thea, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. And again, we all wish you nothing but continued success, and because you already know that you have to take that time, sometimes you have to say when,
Yes.
just put the
It's
pencil down. Put
intentional.
the, That has to be intentional. Put it down and
Yes.
just take that time for yourself because it's very important not to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So with that being said, ooh, Daya, we're gonna do a little jig. All right, that's how we're gonna rock out.
So
Okay.
let's
I'm
see.
just so
Let's
happy
see.
for you on your journey.
Then you get no
Thank
love.
you.
Don't show love.
You take care of yourself, Daya, okay?
Will
Thank
do.
you so very much. Okay.
Will do. Thank you for
But
having me.
oh, of course, my absolute pleasure. Take care now.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Amazing. Thank you all for joining. We have one more comment. We have one more comment. And oh, Nikki said definitely a trailblazer. Blessings upon blessings to you. So yes, Nikki, thank you so much for being interactive. Thank everyone else for being interactive. The Talk with Gina family. I love all of you. I have a fantastic guest coming up again next week. I am going to take some R&R, but check it out. I'll be back on Wednesday. Yesterday was the B day. And so a little R&R is necessary. That's what we were just talking about. You have to know when to take a little time. But I'll be back with another fantastic guest. I don't disappoint. All of you continue to take care of yourself. Thank you so much for the support. I must thank my sponsor, PPI Security, specializing in city, state, and government contracts. Remember, never give up on your dream. I encourage all of you to share this show with anyone that you know that has young children that are going through the process, or they will be going through the process. Not everybody wants to go to college. College isn't for everyone. But if that is in your path, and if that's what you feel that you want to do, or children who want to do that, I truly encourage you to play this back for them and get some inspiration. That's all we can do. Sharing is what? Caring. And guess what we're going to do? I want all of you right now, wherever you are, to just give me a little jig on that mad love. Daya shared that mad love, and so am I. Here we go. Yeah. How? All right, everyone. Take care of yourself. Bye bye. Until next time.
Wanna show love, 'cause I get mad love.